I survived 100 days in medieval Minecraft. This world is packed with ancient monsters, ghosts, dragons, and even cyclops. I have a few goals. Take on the Goblin King, Barako the Sun Chief, and Captain Cornelia. I also want to take down a level 5 dragon, make full dragon armor, and have my own dragon. Last but not least, I just want to survive 100 days since this mod pack is absolutely brutal. Day 1, I spawned in a beach village, then I checked my quest book to see my objectives. There were some crazy things I needed to do, like kill all the different types of dragons. My first objective was already complete, so I took the reward. It was a water canteen and a treasure bag that gave me food and a bunch of materials. I then began exploring the rest of the village where I found a chest with a monocle in it. Down in the bottom of the village, I hit the jackpot because I got a ton of iron and something called a hero's chestplate. This thing looked absolutely sick. I then went back in, got 3 diamonds and a heart of the sea. With all the materials I gathered, I made an iron pickaxe, iron leggings, iron boots, and a sword. Then I tried to take on this ender golem and got absolutely destroyed. So I just collected a bunch of cobblestone to make the rest of my tools. Okay, stay away from the ender golem, got it. I also made sure to steal the villagers' food supply and take a bed with me just in case. Plus I had some skill points to spend. I put both into constitution and got 1 more heart. While exploring some more, I found an abandoned house where I got another iron helmet and took a bunch of books to go. So these altars right here always have some great loot, but while I was looking for it, I got attacked by a ghost and this guy did so much damage. See, I was right about the loot, there was a diamond in there. I then went back home to sleep the night away. I was not ready for the mobs in this entire world yet. Day 2, I went back out and found another village. This place had this church structure with some bookshelves and treasures in it. There were also these guys called Farlanders, which are just smaller endermen. I also met this giant beetle, which I thought was passive, but it started attacking me, and these guys were tanks. They took so many hits. The beetle dropped this thing called chitin, which can be used to make some crazy armor, but I'm not going to use that just yet. I then put 2 more points into constitution and got 1 more heart. That night, I saw this ender golem on a tower, picked up some golden apples, and then went to sleep. Day 3, I went to check out this wizard's tower, but there were some enemies waiting for me. 2 harpies are right in the front, but they weren't too strong, so I took them easily. I've seen towers like this before, and they explode when you open the top chest, so as soon as I opened it, I made sure to run for it before the explosion killed me. I picked up the books that got launched and then met an ogre villager. These guys look pretty scary, but the best thing about them is that they're passive and they have some crazy loot in their base. This chest was packed with iron, emerald, and gold. I then found this little hut that 2 Farlanders were in, but I had to stay in there because this ender golem started chasing me. I stayed right under the door to not get hit and was able to take out my first ender golem. With that, I was able to put 1 more skill point into my strength. Good thing I explored a little bit more because I actually found a dwarf blacksmith's house with the waystone there too. I said hi to the blacksmith and looked at his trades, then went upstairs to take his entire house for myself. It seemed like nobody was using it, so I set up 2 chests and made a diamond pickaxe. That night I went outside and met a monster. This was a minotaur. This guy chased me all the way back inside. I used these stairs to keep some distance and I was able to take this minotaur out. I then made a stupid mistake. I looked at this enderman and got a nausea effect. This was absolutely awful. I had to run all the way back home and use the doorframe once again to take out this classic enderman. I picked up my first ender pearl, and if things couldn't get worse, I got attacked by another monster. This was a possessed armour. I think this was the most scared I've ever been in my life. This guy could even reach through the hole in the wall. There's no way, I had to be getting trolled. He even started drinking potions, but I kept at it and managed to finally take it out. I had to see what this guy dropped. It was a thing called a strange alloy. Then I made an iron pickaxe to get ready for mining all day in day 4. My goal this mining trip was to get almost full diamond armor. While I was there, I got a bunch of platinum, silver, source gem, and this thing called fiery glass. By the time I was done mining, it was already nighttime and I met another enemy. This was an elder guardian and this guy knew how to open the door, so I was super scared. I then met this thing called a skilled zombie. It dropped an enchantment book, which was cool, but I met another one, but this guy actually had a plagued effect. The poison almost killed me, so I had to run all the way to the back of my house to heal, but once I was fully healed, I came back and killed this guy and took the enchantment book. To end off day 4, I put 3 skill points into strength. Day 5 to day 6, I went down to the mines and also checked my second objective in the quest book, which was to make a light and dark chest. This mining trip, I picked up a bunch of geode and got absolutely trolled by these fey gem blocks. I kept thinking they were diamonds the entire time. I also met this goblin trader, which had an efficiency 6 diamond pickaxe trade. All the XP meant I could put 2 more points into strength. The mining trip was absolutely worth it because I could come back and make a diamond chestplate and a diamond sword. Plus, it was time to upgrade my shield, so I made this thing called a crude shield and then iron plated it. It looks like a big bucket of milk though. Then it was right back down to the mines all the way till day 7. And on day 7, I got 2 skill points that I put into dexterity, which means I could move a little bit faster. I also grabbed a bunch more diamonds, so I made diamond leggings, diamond boots, and had almost full diamond armor. Then when I was lighting these areas up, I got jump scared by a ghost, and this guy actually ended up doing no damage to me at all. After the ghost fight, I made a wooden hammer and turned my crafting table into a workbench so I could crack these geodes. They basically gave nothing, but it was kinda cool. I also realized platinum shield was way stronger, so I upgraded my iron shield. Day 8, after talking to the blacksmith, I met this Gorgon. This Gorgon froze me, so I had to retreat as soon as I was unstuck and use this door to my advantage. Now that that was taken care of, I did my first trade with the dwarven blacksmith. And while I was heading back upstairs, I met this weird alien looking creature. This thing started launching slimes out of the top of his head. What? This thing ended up not doing any damage and it had a little health, so I killed it and took its spores. Now that I had diamond armor and a diamond sword, I felt a lot more safe to explore and started moving around this entire area. In this woodlands, I found this little dirt hut which I broke through and found an underground basement. To be a good person, I helped this person cure this zombie villager. It took me forever, so when it was nighttime, I ended up fighting enchanted phantoms. Day 9, I saw something moving in the forest and it was another possessed armor. I had to break through this wall again and take this guy out the cheesy way. After that, I went to look for cows so I can grab some leather, so I went back to the original village, breeded these 2 cows, and killed one of these guys. This was so annoying, it didn't even drop leather, it just dropped the whole dead cow. I tried to put this guy in a leather tanner, nothing. I even made a cutting board and put the dead cow on top, and still nothing. I even made a campfire and put a roaster on top, and still it didn't do anything. But this right here might have been the scariest thing ever. As I was lighting this area up, a mutant zombie just started coming at me. This guy was absolutely gigantic. I had to just hide in this room and try to sleep as much as I can. Luckily, this guy couldn't see me through the windows, and I was finally able to sleep once this guy ran away. Day 10, I finally built up the courage to go out and explore. Killed a bunch of harpies to grab some feathers and fought 2 ender golem at once. Now these guys are no joke. I actually ended up lowering one guy's health all the way down, but it did so much damage I had to retreat and eat my golden apple. I used this tree to my advantage, took these guys out, and thought I saw a dragon. And during the night of day 10, I found another beach village. The chests in this village weren't too bad. I got a corrupted beacon, a spider necklace, a rune, and a renegade chestplate. The spider necklace then said I could climb walls, but this got annoying super fast, so I took it off. I then put one more skill point into strength and fought a mountain lion. These guys were really fast. Also during the night, I found another Farlander's hut where I picked up an ender pearl, some gas tears, and fought even another mountain lion. The traveling was worth it because now I knew where the Goblin King was. I just saw the boss bar appear. Day 11, I found a jungle structure that I stupidly jumped into, and it turned out to be a python's pit. I saw the boss bar and I thought they were a lot stronger than they actually were. These guys were super easy to take out. Okay, it turned out to just be one python, but there was a bunch of spiders around there too. The loot was actually pretty nice. I found a bunch of gold and 2 treasure bags where I got an Eye of Ender and a ton of other things. After that, I continued my exploration through these tropical rainforests and these hills. Over these hills, I found another village where I found some pillagers and another ender golem. I ended up taking out the ender golem and spending the rest of the night exploring where I found this wizard's tower. This place just had a free enchanting table just laying out there. So of course upstairs had to be even better. After taking out the spawner on the 2nd floor, the next floor had some crazy sick loot. In this chest, there was a weapon called Graves Bane. Now this thing looked amazing. Day 12, I found a smaller tower, and on top of this tower was a bunch of blocks of iron and gold. And while exploring more, I found a burnt forest. That's when I got attacked by a mad cow. This guy was insane. I also got chased by these howls. One of them was enchanted, by the way, but these guys are pretty easy to kill. I then took out this black bear, which was actually not that hard at all. And then I met this goblin lumberjack who just gave me a bunch of stuff the more I started talking to him. But after that, something really scary happened. I had to hide in this abandoned house because a mutant skeleton started chasing me. I kept peeking out to look around to see if this guy was anywhere nearby, and when he wasn't, I went to sleep. Day 13, the mutant skeleton was still right in front of me, so I had to be really careful. After I couldn't see the mutant skeleton anymore, I broke these windows and just straight beelined it. After I got pretty far away from that house, I found this crazy little respawn area. I hope that thing doesn't give me bad luck, but right after that, I found another altar with 2 diamonds in it. I was then able to put one more point into Constitution. That night, I saw another structure that was similar to the one in the jungle, so of course I just jumped right in. This turned out to be a dungeon for another mob. I think this was called a Dracania, but it wasn't even that hard to take out. Day 14, I found another blacksmith's home. The only thing standing in my way was this large snake, which I took out pretty easily. Just like the other blacksmith's house, this also had a waystone. I then fought 2 more ender golem, and unlike last time, this was a lot easier with all my upgrades. Now this desert right here had some really weird monsters. First was this tarantula hawk, which didn't even poison me but did so much damage. Then I saw these guys called Myrmex soldiers. Now one hit from these guys and they did so much damage. They were no joke at all. I was super lucky that I've been collecting golden apples the entire time. I think I explored pretty good enough. I had to go back home because I did not want to die. Day 15, I expanded my chest room. Then I went downstairs to tear apart the blacksmith's room and make my own enchantment area. I feel kinda bad, I just took everything from this blacksmith. I even started living in his own house. Just like that, the enchantment table was ready and I had an Unbreaking 3 enchantment for my diamond pickaxe. Day 16, I went back down to the mines to grab some level and I broke into a cave. Now I expected some mobs in this cave, but I didn't really expect an actual strong mob. This was my first time seeing an elite mob. This was an elite minotaur and it could even launch flame shulker blasts. This guy ended up coming through a hole I made and did a ton of damage, but luckily I was able to take it out and pick up some of the sick elite level loot. Day 17, I smelted a bunch of the ores that I collected in the cave and then made some shears to go collect some wool. I needed the wool for sleeping bags and this sand for glass. After all of that, I was able to make a standard traveler's backpack and grab a ton of extra storage. I also upgraded it to a bookshelf's backpack, but this ended up being awful and didn't do anything at all. And I got to enchant my diamond pickaxe. Day 18 to 20, with the new pickaxe, I went straight down to the mines and collected a bunch of diamonds and broke into a cave. Those green things were called X-petrified orbs and they can make items indestructible, so they were super important. I also got very lucky in this mining trip with a bunch of diamonds and these things called dark crystals. I have no idea what they do yet. More XP meant 1 more point to strength. And I made my way back home to crack a bunch of the geos that I got, and I got some pretty good loot. I then made an anvil, placed it right next to the bookshelves and started repairing all of my diamond armor and make a diamond helmet. Then I built another portal and before I could get in, I saw an enemy. This was an enchanted wind caller. This guy wasn't too strong though, so I easily took it out and then went to the nether. Day 21, as soon as I spawned into the nether, I grabbed some nether quartz and built my way over to an explorable area. I had no idea what kind of mobs were in the nether, so I had to be careful, but luckily I found another nether structure. I didn't see any new mobs. These are the same guys I fought on the overworld, so they were really easy to take out. I broke the spawner and got this thing called a blazing flask. In the other chest, there was this thing called a nether eye, and that was going to be useful for the ender dragon fight way later. I also found another nether structure where I got a fire aspect 4 enchantment and found the main room. This place was filled with 2 skeleton spawners and a bunch of mobs. I took those guys out really easily and learned how to equip talismans. The chest right in front of me had this really sick chestplate called a dark chestplate. Look at how cool that is. Day 22, one of the talismans I had made me passive towards all piglins. Well, just regular piglins. So I felt super safe when I explored this piglin outpost and got this withered chestplate. This is when I realized the talisman doesn't work on piglin brutes, and once I hit it, every other piglin in the area was now aggro towards me. I had to think really quick, so I jumped down to the bottom of this outpost and tried to make a break for it in the open floor. I thinned out the piglin herd a little bit and built up to this area to stay safe. Luckily for me, a lot of them fell into the lava, so it was easy to take out the last few and go back up to take a netherite scrap and a wither helmet as my reward. Well, now I'm terrified of the nether. At least I was able to upgrade my strength 1 more and enchant this new dark chestplate I just got. Day 23, while I was exploring, I went back to the old village and realized there was a butterfly leviathan that was beached on there. Now these guys are absurdly strong, so I had to be careful. I kited around the house and was able to get a few hits on the butterfly leviathan. After doing some juke moves, I was able to take out this butterfly leviathan, but the loot was awful. It was just some raw apex meat. I then found a dragon's nest right next to my home. This is a bad sign. I could get burned down at any time. I have to be careful. I then made another huge upgrade to my shield, making a diamond tower shield. I then saw a Pegasus at night. I tried to tame this guy, but I had no idea what I was doing, so I just ended up feeding it all of my golden apples. Day 24 to 26, the stupid Pegasus took all of my golden apples and I still couldn't ride it. After that, I unlocked the final trade for the Dwarven Blacksmith. Then it turned out at level 22 I could finally have a fortune pickaxe, so I spent the rest of this night killing a bunch of pillagers and going down to the mines to get up to level 22. Day 27, I enchanted my pickaxe with fortune 2 and then combined it with my old pickaxe. I then went down to the mines, got a ton of emeralds, lapis, and fiery glass. Then I found this amethyst geode and collected a ton of obsidian to complete my second objective, make a light and dark chest. Now I can go to the deep dark, but my reward for completing this objective was this huge supply camp thing. I placed this bad boy right behind my house for easy use. Day 28 to 32, I put 1 skill point into luckiness and went right back down to the mines. While I was mining, I broke into this dungeon that had a spawner and a zombie brute just trapped in there. After taking out the zombie brute, I picked up some of the really cool enchantments and put 1 more skill point into my luckiness. I then broke into this sandstone cave and put all of my really important things like the stellarite piece into my backpack. This sandstone cave also ended up branching into a sandstone mine shaft. And if things couldn't get weirder, there was this wither structure right in front of me. As I was building up, I noticed right in front of me there was a heavily armored wither skeleton. That ended up distracting me because then I got attacked from the back. These guys end up doing so much damage, I had to eat my golden apple and keep my distance, but luckily I was still able to take them all out. With the main threats of the wither being gone, I went up to check the rewards. 2 diamonds were not worth it at all, but I found another structure that was filled with zombie brutes. I kept 1 block of distance away and was able to take both these guys out. There weren't many other mobs in this structure, but it had some pretty good loot, but the most important thing I got here was this treasure bag that gave me a blaze rod. That's more than enough exploring for now. It was time to call it quits and head back home. As soon as I got home, I put 1 more point back into Constitution and made some water bottles. Day 33 to day 34, it was time to remake a bunch of my armor and get to enchanting. I also placed this light and dark chest on bedrock and checked my next goal, which was to take out the Goblin King. When I started enchanting, I got featherweight 5 on my helmet, protection 4 on my leggings, feather falling 4 on my diamond boots, and sharpness 3 on my diamond sword. I also put fire aspect 4 and bonus shot on my bow. That night I realized why there was so much lightning in this world. Every time there was lightning, it would spawn a ridiculous mob like this one. These guys were extremely strong and dropped some of the craziest loot ever. I was then able to put 1 more point into Constitution and met another mutant skeleton. I was actually feeling overpowered now. I just bull rushed this mutant skeleton and managed to take it out with no effort at all. I even started picking up the ribs and limbs that it dropped. Day 35, I made a ton of golden apple because what happened in this day was absolutely the worst case scenario. While I went out to explore, I noticed something just started launching fire at me. That could only mean one thing. There was a dragon nearby. Right to the left of me, the dragon broke through this mountain and started peeking its head. Since I was flinching so much, my arrows didn't even hit the dragon properly and this guy started flying down towards me. I then got picked up by this dragon and dropped down, but I still survived. I ate my golden apple and was ready for the fight. Luckily for me, this dragon was only a level 3 dragon and for some reason, the health was already halved. The smartest thing I did this entire fight was not pick up the water because then the fire breath didn't end up doing any sort of burning damage to me. The thing I had to worry about the most was the dragon picking me up because I could not take more fall damage. Things were going really well. I was standing my own against a full dragon. This guy tried to pick me up a few more times, but I kept dismounting and was able to land the final few hits to take this dragon out. And just like that, I became a dragon slayer. I also took every single thing from this dragon. With a bunch of new levels, I was able to combine 2 of my leggings, make a dragon scale chestplate, and a dragon scale helmet. Then I went on to take another boss on, the Goblin King. Day 36, thankfully I knew exactly where the Goblin King was located. I looked at the castle and started making my way inside. Waiting for me right in front was some of these goblin minions and these guys weren't too strong. I actually easily took these guys out. Since the front of this castle was fortified with some wood, I broke in and started killing all these guys that piled up in front of the door. Once the path was cleared, I made my way inside and fought this legendary Gobber. Now this guy took so much damage. I was probably swinging for a few minutes and I finally managed to kill this thing. The next thing standing in my way was the Ogre, but I took a little break to upgrade my strength. The Ogre has some of the weirdest moves I've ever seen. It attacks you like 3 times at once, but I ended up taking it out. Now there's nothing standing in the way between me and the Goblin King, so I started making my way to the throne. I actually thought the Goblin King was gonna be a lot bigger, but it just ended up being so small and it fell off the castle. Before I went back to kill the guy, I ended up taking down this legendary Garch and this thing called a Mimic. Now that everything inside the castle was taken care of, I went back outside to kill this Goblin King. But a bunch of other mobs had spawned, like this Gorgon and this Dracana. So first I had to get rid of all the other mobs, and then it was just me versus the Goblin King. Once I got this guy alone, it just took a few more hits and the Goblin King was dead. And on day 37 to day 39, I took all the Goblin King's loot, checked the quest book, and took the rewards as well. The next goal was to take on the Toad Sentinel. But before that, I made my way back home to put all of my stuff away and then right back down to the mines. I told you guys I needed a bunch of X-Petrified orbs. These things are super important. I then combined it with the stellarite pieces and made eternal stellas. This way I could make my dragon chestplate indestructible. Thing is so cool, my durability started going up. The only problem was you can't put it on gear that's already fully enchanted. Like my chestplate, it just didn't go on at all, so I just put it on my dragon scale helmet. Day 40, since it was a blood moon and I couldn't go to sleep, I decided to go outside to kill a bunch of mobs. The blood moon summoned this guy named Dr. Mazbin. This was a skeleton that had fully enchanted armor and a sick helmet. Things started getting even crazier. I fought 3 fully enchanted armored zombies. Lucky for me, these guys didn't have super speed, otherwise I would be completely ruined. These guys take a lot of hits, but they weren't too bad to take out. What was really bad was another mutant skeleton. If it wasn't for the bow, this guy would be so easy to take out, but it keeps giving you like slowness and poison. It was so annoying, but I still took it out. Day 41 to day 42, I had a ton of levels, so I decided to make a bunch of protection books and combine them all. I then used the protection 4 book on my dragon scale chestplate. One of those lightning mobs also dropped this indestructible bow that I put infinity on. Then I put unbreaking on my diamond leggings and repaired it. After getting a few more levels, I put protection 3 on my dragon scale helmet, made some dragon boots, and put 2 points into strength. Before these days ended, I also put power 3 on my new bow. Day 43, I took my waystone and teleported really far away to hopefully find the Toad Sentinel. During my travels, I saw this pillager camp that was absolutely filled to the brim with these guys. Then in the back was a Cyclops. Now this thing was huge. But I learned that a few shots to the eye took this guy out really easily. Then I went back to exploring and hopefully trying to find this Toad Sentinel. I also found out that these wandering traders have some overpowered trade, like the Totem of Undying. I then jumped all the way down, water bucket clutch, and found an underground village where I took all their books. Day 44 to day 48, I spent these 4 full days killing a bunch of Cyclops and then moving over to this monastery. Standing in my way was this skilled zombie brute, which wasn't actually that hard to take out. What was annoying were all these invisible skeletons. Oh my god, there were so many of these guys. Even those guys were no match to what came next. This was a legendary frozen zombie, and this guy ended up giving me mining fatigue and slowness. He was a nightmare to fight. Once the zombie was trapped, I took it out with my bow and grabbed all of its loot. Then in my travels, I found a mining system, so obviously I had to take the ladder all the way down and explore this bad boy. As I was exploring, I realized this mining system connected into a skeleton dungeon, and this dungeon was huge. This was just regular skeletons, but the loot in here was super cool. There was a bunch of iron, golden apple, and even an enchantment book for Thorns 4. It also had the most important thing, X-Petrified Orbs. Once I was done with the mining system, I found another waystone and teleported back home. As soon as I got home, I put Thorns 4 on my chestplate. Then I made a blindfold because I was gonna take on another boss. These structures right in front of me either had Medusa in there or a very strong Gorgon. Either way, I would need my blindfold. I pulled all these levers and went downstairs to see which mob I would have to take down. But for me, there was nothing, or so I thought. For a brief second, I took my blindfold off and realized the Gorgon had been following me the entire time. I quickly put my blindfold back on so I wouldn't get turned into stone and started slashing away. That was really scary. I'm pretty sure these guys just one-hit kill you, but I got a really sick reward. A Gorgon's head. Look at how cool it is. Day 49, I met a legendary harpy, and this guy wasn't too hard to take out, and it dropped a bunch of enchantment books for me. I then started launching a bunch of arrows at this huge monster that was on top of this tower. Turns out this was a titan. I did not think this guy would come down from the tower to attack me, but this thing was really strong. I think the fire aspect made this thing a lot harder to fight because it started teleporting everywhere. I had to eat my golden apple. As soon as this guy stopped teleporting, I took it out really easily and picked up the titan hide. After that, I found a pillager outpost where I picked up a corrupted eye. Day 50, I noticed that this village was on fire. That's a bad sign. But I thought it was this overworld Drake first. I managed to take this guy out pretty easily, but that couldn't have been it. My guess was 100% right. It turned out to be a fire dragon in this village. I think this guy was already fighting a bunch of iron golems, so it only took about 2 arrows and I picked up everything that it had. I then used those dragon scales to make dragon scale boots, and that night I stumbled on an ice dragon's nest. I managed to get a bunch of hits off on this ice dragon before it even woke up, and it was already weakened for me to take out. For some reason, this ice dragon didn't even do any sort of damage to me and just died from my fire aspect. Well, I'm not really complaining. I got a bunch of new ice dragon scales and put 1 point into constitution. Day 51, while I went out exploring, I found this giant mushroom structure. And of course, I've seen the mobs in here before. These are weird mushroom brutes, and these guys ended up overpowering me and overnumbering me. Since the spawner was broken, I just used my bow to take out the remaining mushrooms and was able to clear this entire place out and check what was upstairs. There was this guy called a looter who stole my sword, and I had to use my bow to kill this guy. He even got a hit off on me. Finally, I found another waystone, clicked on it, and teleported back home. Day 52 to day 56. Now hang on, cause a lot of things happen in these 4 days. So first thing, I teleported pretty far away to go mining, where I found this huge cave. So I for one had no idea that this place was gonna be the spawning ground for a level 5 fire dragon. And another issue was that these areas were so dark that I couldn't see a few feet in front of me. But lucky for me, this place had a ton of loot and another one of these weird wither structures, which I built up and grabbed all of their stuff too. In these caves, there was also an upgraded dungeon where once you broke the spawners, a ton of monsters spawn. I took these guys all out and took all of their loot. But here's when things start getting crazy. When I was making my way back, I noticed something right behind me, and it was a giant dragon, the biggest dragon I had ever seen in this entire game. This guy's entire tail was bigger than all the dragons I'd ever seen, and it started launching a bunch of projectiles at me. And remember when I said it was super dark? I couldn't even see this dragon if it got too far away. I had no idea what was happening. I thought I was going to die for sure. But thank God I had a bunch of water left and I had my golden apple. So all I did was just eat a ton of golden apple non-stop. Scratch that water part. I guess my water bucket just glitched, so I had to eat all of my golden apple just non-stop. This dragon did not stop raining fire down at me. At this point, I was 6 golden apples deep and I just kept running around to see if I can get good hits on the dragon. But now this monster started picking me up as well. At least now I could get a bunch of good hits in. And I was on top of water, so I was able to get a bunch of solid bow shots in, and the dragon just started running away. When I came back to take the fight on towards the dragon, I noticed it was sleeping or resting or something. But it turned out the dragon had died. It probably ran into the wall and ended up doing a ton of damage to itself. Since this was a gigantic dragon, it dropped so much loot. I think it dropped a total of 43 dragon scales, and it also dropped a dragon egg for me. I then used all of those red dragon scales to make full fire dragon armor. Also during that mining trip, I had enough materials to make 4 eternal stellas. So not only did I get full dragon scale armor, but my full dragon scale armor is also fully indestructible. This armor was absolutely sick. It's probably the best armor I've ever had in this game. Then I used the wither bone to make a dragon bone sword. And to end these days off, I enchanted my dragon bone sword. I spent most of day 57 in the nether looking for wither bones and some levels. And while I was mining for nether quartz, I also managed to get one more piece of ancient debris. Day 58, I enchanted a bunch of books and started building a fence for the dragon egg I just got. I had no idea how to hatch this dragon egg, so I just spent the rest of this day watching it until a blood moon happened. During the blood moon, I fought this giant man and this armored zombie that came from a lightning named John. John was a really tough battle, but I ended up killing it and picking up some really good loot. The next day, I fought this guy named Robert, and Robert had the adaptable ability, which means I couldn't use one attack for too long, otherwise it wouldn't do any damage at all. But I managed to swap around and kill this guy. After that, I accidentally killed this pillager and got the bad omen effect. I also had no idea that this place was considered a village, and I started a raid. This raid was so stupid, I had to protect one villager that was trapped in a corner with water. Of course I failed, but I met a lot of cool dudes like this executioner and this royal pillager. On my minimap, there was a bunch of mobs down here, so I made sure to dig through and found this area for this thing called Arachne. I killed Arachne, destroyed every other spider in there, and also broke the spawner. And on day 61, while I was looking for the Toad Sentinel, I killed a bunch of these Myrmex soldiers and decided to take on the Queen. As long as I stayed back, the Queen couldn't hit me at all, and I used my bow to defeat the Myrmex Queen. Next up, there was this guy named Stefan, who once I killed, I got to pick up Titan Forged gear. Right after that, I got into a sniper's duel with this pirate ship. There were a bunch of pillagers, and I had to board the ship and destroy their spawner. I then took all of their loot and went to shore where I found another underground dungeon, but this place was filled with zombies. Luckily I broke their spawner so no more could spawn. Day 62, I made my way all the way up to the top of this pyramid, took the block of gold, and then challenged this undead pirate ship. After taking down as much as I could, I decided to board the ship and started taking the fight to them. The skeleton down below were actually a challenge, but the ones up top were really weak. I then had enough levels to put one more point into dexterity and then break all these guys' spawner and get the heck out of there. That night while I was traveling, I also managed to see a Cyclops, and once again, a few shots to the head and this guy was already done. Then on day 63, right on the shore, I saw a sea serpent. I made sure to keep my distance and used my bow and killed my first sea serpent. These scales could make the best armor in the game. After that, I swam over to this island, and this must have been an unlucky day because one of the sea serpents heard. And this guy was gigantic. It even started flopping around every time it hit me. It did so much damage. And if things couldn't get worse, 2 more sea serpents were right in front of me. Thank God for this structure right behind me because I was able to use that to hide, and I managed to take out 2 of the sea serpents and went for the 3rd one that was still in the water. I then picked up all the scales and decided to continue to find the Toad Sentinel. On day 64, a siren caught me and started dragging me over to its little island. I managed to kill it and pick up these shiny scales. Then I noticed these huge butterfly leviathans in the water. Now I had no idea that when these guys are in the water, they're invincible, so I made sure to stay out of their way and just keep traveling. All that work finally paid off. Now I was near the Toad Sentinel. I saw the boss bar appear. As I got near the boss fight area, a gong scared the life out of me. It genuinely terrified me. That's when the Toad Sentinel started coming in, but this wasn't a fair fight. There was another stupid Ender Golem right in front of me too. After tanking the Toad Sentinel's hits, I was able to take the fight right to the Sentinel and take this bad boy out. I then took my reward from the quest book. It was a Glare Spawn Egg and 100 XP. On the way home, I found this underground dungeon and it turned out to be a house for a bunch of spiders. Day 65 to day 66, I took some lecterns and spent a whole day just trying to get unbreaking or protection trade, and I got nothing. I then found this huge fossil which had a ton of gold blocks right inside. Right next to that fossil was a desert structure that had 2 spawners and then a bunch of gold up top. Then right next to that structure was a desert pyramid which I broke into and grabbed this thing called a holy locket. After that, on the ride home, I found something that was pretty incredible. This was another fire dragon's nest. While the dragon was sleeping, I was able to get a ton of good hits with my overpowered bow. Then as soon as the dragon woke up and started spewing fire, I got into the water and was able to take the dragon down. This guy was just frozen in an action pose, but I was able to harvest everything. Day 67 to day 69, I finally got home and was able to make brand new chests for all the loot that I got. I also fought this mystic enderman and took all of his wands. For the next 2 days, I'm not even joking when I tell you I spent the entire time trying to get protection or unbreaking and I got nothing. After that, it was time to get ready to kill Barako the Sun Chief. So on day 70, I combined a bunch of protection books together and was finally able to put protection on this set of armor. Day 71, I completely ran out of XP, but while I was traveling to kill a bunch of these mobs, I found one of these huge watchtowers. My reward for climbing the top of these towers was a waystone for myself. For the rest of these days, I just needed to collect a few more experience points so I could put Unbreaking 3 on my Dragonbone sword. And on day 72, with all of my stuff enchanted, I was ready to go and take on Barako the Sun Chief. Along the way, I took down an overworld drake. I also found another one of these Goblin King's keep, but this time I'm way stronger, so I just barged my way in, taking down everything and also this ogre. Now that the Goblin King's defense is gone, it was super easy to go in and take out the Goblin King. Day 73 to day 75, while I was exploring, I also found this giant Cyclops cave, but this guy was super easy to take out one more time. Then as I was exploring, I found a really overpowered structure. Now it might not look like it, but every single one of these zombies are equipped with diamond or iron armor. These guys were extremely strong. For some reason, I guess this was a mining colony, so all of them only attack with pickaxes. I personally didn't even think this many zombies could spawn at once. There was so many on every single floor, and then there was 3 total floors of this entire mining system. After taking out this structure, I managed to kill over 150 zombies. That is way too much. Day 77 to day 79, I finally found the village of Barako the Sun Chief. Out of the gates, Barako started launching these attacks from the ground that would set you on fire. After dodging whatever I could, I finally got a good look at Barako the Sun Chief. This is when I realized Barako had a ton of minions all around me. If I wanted to even get a good shot at him, I'd have to kill some of his minions first. Once these bow shots lowered Barako's health, I then went to take him head on, but it launched me all the way back. Turns out Barako actually heals from some of his minions right on the side, so once I took those guys out, I was able to get a bunch of good hits in. Now Barako's health was low enough to start doing brand new attacks. This was just a huge sunbeam. I then got dragged in by Barako and a ton of fire damage happened to me, but I managed to break out, tank one more sun shot, and was able to take out Barako the Sun Chief. I even picked up all his loot and was able to summon my own minions. Day 80 to day 84, I came back home, collected my dragon egg because I just learned how to hatch it. But before all of that, I needed a ton of these things called dragon meal, which needs a bunch of meat and bones. To fully get a dragon to level 5, I need about 2 stacks of dragon meal. I then went back to the nether to collect a bunch of netherrack. This is what's gonna actually hatch the dragon, and while I was there, I decided to also go mining for some ancient debris. I only needed about 2 more pieces of ancient debris, so as soon as I got home, I was able to make a netherite ingot and upgrade my shield to a netherite tower shield. After that, I just waited for the dragon to hatch. Day 85 to day 88, I made a dragon command staff since my dragon just hatched, and I commanded this bad boy to stay. I also fed my dragon every single piece of dragon meal I had, but it still wasn't rideable. Oh my god, I need so much more meat. But luckily, I was able to still armor up my dragon, so I used every single one of my iron blocks to make dragon armor and then put it all on this dragon. Look at how sick it looks. I then got a name tag and named my dragon Zuko just because it was a fire dragon. For the next few days, I went hunting for more animals to collect more meat and bones because I needed to make a bunch more dragon meal. Along the way, I got attacked by an ice dragon. This was perfect timing because I brought my glass bottle. Preferably, I wanted a fire dragon so I could collect fire dragon blood, but an ice dragon was good enough. This dragon was really easy to take out even though it just stuck me with this ice. Then I collected my dragon blood and took all of the scales and bones from this ice dragon. I also got home and was able to feed my dragon a lot of dragon meal. Now I was finally able to ride my dragon. This is so sick. I was also able to combine the ice dragon blood with my dragon sword and made an ice dragon bone sword. Day 89 to 92, I had to re-enchant my dragon bone sword. I then also gave it looting 6 and unbreaking 5. Right after that, I put spice 4 on my shield and then fed my dragon a bunch of dragon meal. I also realized this entire time I never went to the deep dark, so I placed 1 diamond into the light and dark chest and teleported to the deep stone caves. This place was absolutely wild. There was tons of skulk mobs and even these weird looking things called skulk spies. It was all worth it because the loot in here was absolutely amazing. This is when I realized that this place was really dangerous. These wardens right here, now they give you a blindness effect and they're absolutely tanky. I'm so thankful I have an ice dragon bone sword because that made sure this warden was really slow and couldn't attack me. So I killed the first one, took all of his loot, and even fought another warden. Now that this place was cleared out, I was able to mine whatever I wanted to. All these ores have a chance of also giving the blocks. I then teleported back home, made a dragon bone pickaxe, and also enchanted it with efficiency 4 and fortune 3. Day 93 to 97, I only had a little bit more days left to take on one more boss, and this boss was Captain Cornelia. Now the biome I needed to look was for an ice maze biome. It took about 5 days, but I finally found the ice maze biome, and I was getting chased down by an ice dragon as well. I had to land Zuko as quickly as possible and take down this ice dragon. My dragon was not strong enough at all. After I took out the ice dragon, I grabbed Zuko and parked this bad boy right on the ice maze. I then went around this entire biome looking for any sort of structure, and I found one. I needed an item called a shell horn, and luckily one of these pillagers dropped it. Day 98, I blew the horn and nothing happened. I had to relocate. After moving to somewhere different, I blew the horn one more time, and that's when Captain Cornelia started rising. I ate my golden apple and I was ready for another epic fight, but Captain Cornelia was really weak. Once the captain's health got low enough, it started summoning a bunch of these cool looking drowns. These drowns were also really easy to take out. Once they were all gone, I just started bull rushing Captain Cornelia and got its health all the way down low to lay one final hit. Some of the reward was really cool. I got a bunch of keys and this cool helmet. But this is when I got the worst message ever. Zuko was slain by a snow leopard. Since I commanded Zuko to stay, it didn't fight back anything. My own dragon was dead. This stupid snow leopard right behind Zuko was responsible for the death of a giant dragon. I then took all of Zuko's remains and slowly made my way back home where I buried Zuko. I just can't believe it, a snow leopard took down my dragon. If you want to see 200 days, let me know in the comments, and if you want to see more adventures, check out this video right here. Thank you so much for watching.